What's up, everyone? Welcome to the next lesson in the Penthouse series. Today we are doing something more technical. We will transform the Midjourney output into a 3D model. And spoiler alert, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be perfect, but that's fine. Shitty is good enough. And you'll see what I mean by that in just a moment. This lesson is like super duper quick. So yeah, I think we can just get at it. Let's go then. Alright, so here we have our generation from Midjourney. We need to clean it up before we actually turn it into a 3D model. So the first thing is actually removing the parts of the dress. There's too much of it. We will add parts of it back in post-production, but that's later to come. And right now I'm just brushing it in, how Photoshop make a better subject selection. Something like that should be enough. And now what everyone simply loves, we need to remove the background. So yeah, let me roll the special music for it. And moving on, one thing we also need to take care of is the sunlight spots. We don't have any strong light in our scene, so we need to kind of tone it down. I will select a color nearby and paint it over. And I will run a quick time lapse here so you can see how it looks. Beautiful, that part is done. It doesn't need to be perfect. Next up, we run it through Magnifique, so everything looks nice and sharp. Fast forward, we have our upscale. We use our standard settings, creativity at 4 and HDR at -1. Scale factor at 4 times, which is very important. We discussed it like ages ago in the creative upscaling lesson, so yeah. We can move on to creating a 3D model out of it. But actually, before we do, we can double check if this cutout really matches the angle, lighting, and everything in our scene. We should already have that in mind while curating the pose and locking it in, but it doesn't really hurt to triple check. So you can import the cutout into 3D and place it on top of the image. Perfect then. Now we have something to make a 3D model out of. So let's move on to Tripo 3D. Here we are. There's a website called tripo3d.ai and it's really simple to use. You just upload an image and it turns anything into a 3D model. That can be anything from people, buildings, boats, pretty much anything. And even though the results are often far from perfect, it's okay. So a couple of technical things. Something pretty important here is the ability to choose which model we use. From our tests, there's a significant difference between different models, especially the 2.0 and 1.4. We can try working with both of them actually, so start working with 2.0. Sorry to cut this video, but Tripo 3D is developing real fast, and as of now, we already have 2.5. It's the newest one and it's absolutely great. In principle, it works the same as 2.0, but just with a better results, So you can watch the rest of the video and everything said about 2.0 is the same for the newest one, 2.5. Beautiful, so we got our model. In our opinion, the newer tends to produce results that are making more sense structurally. It will be more reliable in terms of anatomy, structure, all that kind of things. It might seem like something we actually need, but in our case, we care about something different. We care about having this model as close to our reference, the one we generated in Midjourney. And while we have a correct anatomy right now, it might be too far from the reference, and that difference might be too much. But anyway, feel free to check how it does in your case. The models are improving day after day, so it's always worth checking out. Perhaps one big thing that the newer model does is creating a PBR texture with diffuse, gloss, and normal maps, and that might be a game changer for you. Okay, moving on. Let's try to generate it based on the older model as well. We can click Refine to get a higher resolution also. Okay, here's the model. As we can see, 1.4 is really sticking close to the uploaded image. It is more similar to the original, but there are some odd things here happening as well. And holy 3ds Max. You know, it's pretty intense on the face, but that's fine. We can work with it. There's, always creative upscalers. There's always the magic of post-production. So you'll see how we bring this whole nightmare home. But yeah, that's later on. So yeah, just to sum it up, I always run the generations with newer models. They are more powerful and you can get additional textures like diffuse, gloss, normals and all that. But if your generations are too far off, try older ones. It should work just fine for our purposes. Last thing is just to download the model as FBX and we are good to go. So that's how you use Typo3D. It's literally all there is. And by the way, there's a second tool to transform 2D images into 3D models. It's also incredibly simple to use. It's called Meshy.ai, and we will use it in our Parisian scene 3 lessons from now. So that's later though, and we'll come back to it later. So circling back to our chapter, before we wrap this one up, I want to point out one thing about rendering 3D characters. The 3D characters, when we put them into our scene, might look washed out. Depending on the scene, it might look more or less annoying, and you might want to adjust the diffuse a little bit, and sometimes even adding self-illumination helps, just to raise those dark colors a little bit. And this is what we actually did for this particular case. But apart from it, we don't go crazy shaders, we don't apply SSS, we don't make custom gloss maps, no real hair. You'll see that this level of quality before post-production will be sufficient for post-production. So yeah, I think anyway, that's a little plug, something to keep in mind. That's it for today. In the next lesson, 3D lighting, guys. 3D lighting, how exciting. See you there.